hasn't been much knowledge about. This was like in geography, a continent not yet discovered. And when Sperry got the Nobel Award in '82, I was alarmed because for the first time in this unknown continent, I saw a divide. And this divide was the two parts of the brain. The left side, which is more on speech, reckoning, calculating, mathematics, and the right side, which is more on imaging, music, feeling, storyboard writing, novels, lyrics, and then there has been an incredible invention at the midst of the 15th century. And so you already smell something out of this book because I tried all these modern phenomena, bring it back into a kind of historical relation. Or one art historian always impressed me a lot is A.B. Warburg about the migration of the images, the iconographia. So this has been the semantic turn. This brought for centuries and centuries our mind text-driven. Picture sunt illiterati, pictures are for those who cannot write, has been the intellectual pride above the other right center, which has been called later on the iconic turn. And if you go back to just the year 1500, you find the two possibilities totally performed with the sealing of the Sixtina and a Gutenberg invention of the movable letters. And then in 2001, we started das neue Bild der Welt, the new image of the world, and we called it iconic turn. Iconic turn, you know, Chomsky came up with the semantic turn, and with my friend, Professor Gelernter, maybe we have some time afterwards to go into the subject. So this was the semantic turn, and then American people, especially Mitchell, came up with the iconic turn, and we made these kind of lectures. And those who has been at university, it was, 2,000 people came, everybody was interested. And then, just in these days, I started to write down my own experience because, I studied history of art, but on the other side, I run a media company. It was a lot of experience, day-to-day experience. And I had a lot of material, and I tried to get out of these materials 10 chapters. So, to get into, I will show you with 3 examples out of these 10, but maybe they are quite representative. I show how I started, and so later on we can discuss this. So, this is the cover. The cover is, I like it very much because it's a Picasso painting. And the Picasso painting is what my life always has been, a crash of low and high. So you see Le Journal, you see the alcohol problems of the Cubist painters in those days, and you see a wonderful painting. And so this is the cover of the English version. What is Wunderkammer? I thought it would be known as kindergarten, but nobody in America is Chamber of Miracles, Chambre des Merveilles, des Miracles. So, and now let's start looking out of the window. This has been the invention at the beginning of the 15th century. So, the looking out of the window. This is a famous painting of Jan van Eyck. You see through the windows, you see the river. Then, Romanticism, you see the window, the frame. On the left side, it's northern bound, down to the Elbe direction Hamburg, and the other one is southern bound to Napoli, where the German Romanticism was just in the middle. And how is the look out of the window today? What do you presume? This is the new window. This is just a regular double page of average evening television day. And then this is a new one. When you are sitting here, you're all taking out your iPhones, and it's snowing outside, by the way, but you watch the screens. So I wanted to look to the migration of this historical huge impact on our views, how we look to the world. This is looking out of the window. The second chapter I want to show to you is on interfaces. I believe that every interface has its own aesthetical quality. Maybe we can come up in the discussion afterwards about content is king and Foursquare content or Facebook content, how content changed due to software and due to the interface. But coming back to the interface, this is a Gothic glass window, and this is a new Gothic glass window, television. And this is a traditional one, but every screen, every interface has its own quality. Remember how they had to change the storytelling from book to this movie theater. This is what Dyson showed us on the other way with the bottle, the beginning of television in 1934. And this is multimedia. And so every interface has its own quality. So when the computer came, we made a lot of mistakes, but just taking the magazine aesthetics towards the new screen. So maybe we can debate on this later. So let's come with the last example. This is the Wunderkammer. By the way, is Martin Roth here? He left. Martin Roth is director of the Dresdner Wunderkammer, which whenever you go to Dresden, go and see the green vault, because it looks like this. It is not a museum, it is a very fine examples where the King of Saxony made a collection of all these incredible things, which in those days were really cutting edge, the newest technology. So we had Stuart Brand here, and it was Steve Jobs who said the whole last Earth catalog was the beginning of Google. But before, I must explain you a little more. The Wunderkammer then later became the Museum of Natural Science. And from the Museum of Natural Science, it went to the World Exhibition Fair in Paris. And from there, it went directly into the catalog of Sears and Roebuck, because you wanted to buy all these things you could see, you wanted to buy. This has been 72, 74. We were all very impressed. We were fans. This was times with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and California. And this was a wonderful invention. And if Dennis Hillis would be here, he would be quite astonished. On the right side, you see the Long Now, the famous watch, which is taking time. Every 10,000 years, you hear a noise. And on the left side, you see out of the Wunderkammer, I think it's 1680, another clock, and you see this migration of images. It's more or less always the same. And then, this is Entrebreton, a Wunderkammer in modern painting. And I believe this is a new Wunderkammer, where you type in and you find everything. And when I finished the book, this new Wunderkammer was coming up. I mean, it was already there, but the hype just started, and where people said, you know, and all the debates going on, if Google is Mike Zuckerberg is more famous than Sergey and Larry, and you know, it's like in the pop music. It's a very interesting debate. So that's what I wanted to show you in these 10 minutes. David, come you up, and Mr. Kreye, so maybe we find some subjects to talk to, and then we open to the public. Thank you very much.
All right. Is this on? Yes, this is on. What I liked about this book especially is that it basically has both legs in both worlds, because we tend to, in digital, when we talk about the digital, it quickly becomes an either-or debate. And there's even the talk about the digital natives and the digital immigrants. But did we maybe wait for a digital turn after the iconic turn and semantic turn, and this turn is not going to materialize because basically what we have now is the Wunderkammer, and that is now here?
No, the digital turn is the combination of both sides. You know, historically you have to extrapolate a little bit more the iconic turn, but in our brain, the iconic turn and the semantic turn are combined by the corpus callosum. So whatever we feel, whatever we do, is a combination of the two sides. It's not on saying the iconic turn is now there, it's the new Wunderkammer. The iconic turn came by one thing: the low costs of transportation for images. I mean, can you imagine how expensive it was? Transportation of images. When I started to write stories, we only could get one picture in black and white. The editor-in-chief said, no color, it's too expensive. Today, with one click, you have the same transportation of text and images. That means the iconic turn, what we have seen in this presentation before about health, those imaging out of the inner body couldn't be done 30, 40 years ago. It was not possible, even with the best photography. That means the digital media is a combination of text and icon. And it's wonderful for storage. If you don't have text, you don't know when you did this picture or who has been on the picture.
I'd like to ask you about one of the things that strikes me as most surprising in the book. It's a fascinating book. I can't imagine a more important topic than the emergence of imagery as the trend towards imagery, obsession with imagery. But you write something in the book which is surprising, maybe heroic under the circumstances, to be asserting on this stage and in this audience. When you ask, when did this start? When did the iconic turn begin, and what made it begin? You don't talk about the computer. The computer is not what did it in your telling. It's not the smartphone. It's not the digital camera. You talk about 1828 and the invention of photography. As you describe the emergence of images, the TV plays a more important role than the iPhone or the computer screen, as creating a screen and alternate window to look out of. And if there's one device that emerges from your book as a hero device, it's not a phone and it's not a pad, it's a Kodak box camera from the 1930s. Do you think, in using such a camera, and young people today will never have seen one, will never have used one, completely obsolete, in using such a camera, you would have gotten a roll of film, and there might have been 12 exposures on the roll, and then you exposed the roll of film, and you had to get it developed, and often the photographs came out badly, and you had to do the whole thing again. My question is, was the nuisance, was all the energy, was all the time and thought, relatively large amount of time and thought that went into each one of those Kodak images, did they have the result of making us look at those pictures more carefully than we look at pictures that we snap with a cell phone, of which we have tens of millions and we'll get tens of millions more? Did we used to look at images more carefully before they became so profuse and cheap and easy?
Well, this is a question of the inflation of the images. And in the second chapter, you find a capital about frames and images. If you cannot find a frame for the image, you always speak of inflation. So to understand this new world, you have in your brain, you need a frame to recognize where is the place the picture or the text comes in, ties in. If you cannot find a frame, for instance, after 2 days here, it's very difficult for me to find a frame because there's so much news, so much imaging, so many people. I lose so much energy, and then I have to retire myself and reframe me. I mean, that's what we are now doing is a good frame for me because it's a promotion of the book. You know, that's very nice. But if you cannot find, I think the problem today is find a frame. And the most interesting is that when Gates started with Microsoft, it was called Windows. That's why I came up looking out of the windows. Windows has become the most famous software ever. And what was the first window was a frame. I mean, it is, you know, this is the first frame. This one. That's how Microsoft started. So if you cannot frame, you will always speak of the inflation of the images. And so, yeah.
If you talk about the frame and the inflation of images, aren't you forced back to a debate we haven't had in a while, which is the aesthetic debate? And does that aesthetic debate basically lead you back to the frame automatically?
I want to understand what you mean by Wunderkammer, which is central to your understanding. It was a wonderful word, chamber of wonders. You mean an overrich visual environment that is so dense with pictures and things to look at and information that it almost overwhelms us, adds up to more than the sum of its parts. Like DLD, I think if you stand out there, particularly between sessions, you're in the middle of a Wunderkammer and you're very quickly overwhelmed. You have to go out and find a frame, as you put it.
The whole DLD is a Wunderkammer.
The whole DLD is a Wunderkammer. But can there be a digital Wunderkammer as play stands now? Because the essence of a Wunderkammer is it encompasses us, right? We walk into it and it surrounds us. It's all around us. Seems to be the opposite of a smartphone, of an iPhone or a pad, which is, after all, a little tiny picture. We encompass it. It doesn't encompass us. We look at it in the middle distance. Many people have spoken for some time about what they expect to be the emergence of computers that you walk into. Walking computers, as we've called them, or surround computers, whatever. How far have we gone? How far have we gone in the iconic turn? Are we just beginning? Do we have a lot further to go? Or are we almost ready for another turn at this point? The iconic turn going back to 1828. Is it time for a musical turn or psychological turn?
Of course, there are many turns, of course. There's a musical turn. Of course, the iconic turn is just one. And the digital Wunderkammer is that the new Wunderkammer is the software. What Google has done by writing this algorithm, and was your husband who wrote with Sergey and Larry the algorithm, the famous rank page algorithm? I mean, can you imagine? This has been a total new era which started. I mean, nobody of us can work without Google. It is an incredible invention. It's, for me, it's something like Bach Fuge or Beethoven Symphonien. It's incredible. And we have you as a witness, because your husband, who died, with Sergei and Larry, wrote this famous PageRank algorithm. By the way, it came from sociometry. It came from sociology, from Moreno. And they took it over to mathematics, to Kreye. So it's fantastic. I'm very happy that you are here, because the digital Wunderkammer is Google. And can you imagine that our debates, our conversations have been brought on a software which people call Facebook? I mean, just what we do every day is being transported, it's been written to Facebook. That's why it's now a 50 billion business. I mean, these are the inventions. This is why I call it the digital Wunderkammer. This is what happens right now. And the beauty is, if you go back, you find a lot of historical tradition in this. And so this migration of ideas, that's what made me tick when writing the book. Können wir in Publik gehen vielleicht? 10 Minuten?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to open it up?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can open up the questions to the audience and have 10 more minutes. Are there microphones that are ready to go out? I mean, one great thing about what you just described is basically that the Wunderkammer, that used to be a privilege and basically was opened up to the world. Like the Wunderkammer in Dresden, you have to be there, go there, be allowed in there. Now basically everybody is allowed into the Wunderkammer.
Yeah, this is what is the digital revolution is upon. I mean, the digital revolution changed everything: business model, distribution, content, everything. We are in the same time like in the 1500. 1500 we had the revolution of the movable letters with up and downs. Like today we have the digital revolution with up and downs. We have seen the beauty, and Maria have showed in their session the downside with pornography. So you always have, if something is new, you have ups and downs, and you will find, I mean, is WikiLeaks up, it's down? I cannot tell you. I only know that investigative journalism will change.
You say it's new, but one of the interesting things in the book is that, of course, it's not new, that pictures predate language, that it's natural for a child to learn to express himself with pictures or to read pictures before he reads language, that communication by means of pictures preceded historically communication by way of language, and that the iconic turn itself goes back to the 19th century, and that there was a gathering crescendo of images throughout the 20th century. The invention of film, the invention of Hollywood and the celebrity culture, which you discuss in this book, TV in the 50s, this is a gathering crescendo as opposed to something new. Is there something really, has something snapped? Has something actually new taken place? Or are we just seeing a crescendo of gathering force? Maybe it increases exponentially, maybe faster and faster. Or are we just seeing a continuation of trends that you trace back to 1828, maybe earlier?
Yeah, you might, I mean, 1838 or 28 was Daguerre's photography, which changed, of course, the whole history of painting. I mean, before you have paintings, and you have this incredible amount of good painters, and but what changed is the digital transportation of images. These guys must not develop; they can look at immediately and tilt it if they don't like it, and so it has changed totally, and the speed is very fast, and I don't know what will be the next invention. I mean, we have, that's what DLD is on. What is the next big invention? And it comes from a place you can believe before, can foresee it. So, the last question. Yeah, Asha.
So, but I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing up my question that you want money. I consider him, apart from just being my hero and the person, the love of my life, I also consider him increasingly, I know you hear this now, but spiritual, who started seeing in the patterns of mathematics and randomness and geometry, the mysteries that he felt were so unknowable. And when Rajiv actually first got the Midas database from the Stanford Medical School, and they started working on these two algorithms, the anchor text and PageRank as we all know them now, they had no idea what they were embarking on, and they had no idea what gift they were giving to the world. I think it was just these, forces, as Kevin Kelly was just saying, forces of some cosmic forces of a higher consciousness passing through them to enable all of us to be able to have so much access to so much information. On your point about Wunderkammer, I'm not exactly sure what it means, but I would venture a guess as to what Rajiv would say that it means, is that as our own connectedness and our consciousness rises to sort of a higher level or lighter state of being, that we will be moving from text to symbols. And I don't know if that's what you meant, but I think that's absolutely what Rajiv would be thinking, which is it is the symbols that are going to define communication between us, and things like text and anything that's too word heavy or number heavy will increasingly be irrelevant. But thank you for bringing him up, and I just feel like he must be in this room, given that we've been talking about von Neumann and Turing. So thank you once again.
So thank you very much, and take home a Wunderkammer, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the DLD. Thanks.
Thank you very much.